Namaskar, good morning. Today we have the pleasure of having our very dear Nirakarananda ji once again with us. We got him on his way back to St. Louis from India. So, as announced, his subject will be the sadhana of giving. But before we move on to the lecture, let me say a few words of introduction to those who don't know him. Maharaj joined the order in 1993, had the mantra diksha from most revered Ranganathanandji Maharaj, and he joined our center in Barnet in England and served that center for several years before going for his training in Belur Math. And after that, for a few more years, until 2003, he was serving our center in Mysore. Then he was posted to St. Louis in 2007, and he's been there ever since. So that is the small introductory. But Maharaj is a very engaging speaker and a very good singer also. We'll enjoy all of that. Maharaj.
Om Sarve Sukhina Santu Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukhamapnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from disease. May all beings see what is good in others. May no one have to undergo any suffering. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So it's nice to be back in DC after a year, more or less. We'll go straight to the subject, the sadhana of giving. You will find that all religions speak about charity and giving in different ways. In the Vedanta scriptures also you will find many passages where it is stressed the importance of Danham, or giving. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you come across a nice story. Many of you have heard it already, I'm sure, about the Prajapati, the creator. Once the gods, the demons, and the human beings approached Prajapati, the creator, asking him for instructions. So first the gods approached Prajapati and asked, "Sir, please teach us." And Prajapati said, "Da," just one syllable. "Have you understood?" "Yes, we have understood." It means damyata, control yourselves, because the gods knew that they are given to enjoyment. Heaven is a place for enjoyment. So the gods knew that they lacked self-control. So when Prajapati said, "Da," that's what they understood. Then the demons came to him and asked, "Give us instruction." And Prajapati said, "Da," the same thing. "Have you understood?" "Yes, we have understood." It means dayatvam, be compassionate, be kind. The demons knew that they were cruel by nature, and they needed to change that. So that's what they understood. And then the humans came to Prajapati and asked the same question, and he gave the same answer, Da. Have you understood? Yes. Datta. Be charitable. Because human beings know that we are self-centered. We are always looking for our own self-preservation. So we need to overcome that, to be charitable, to share with others. So the Upanishad goes on to say that whenever there is a thunderstorm, the thunder cloud says, da, 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 to remind us to be kind, to control ourselves, and to be charitable. Once I read a book that had a very interesting statement. It said that whatever you keep to yourself, you will lose. And whatever you give to others is yours forever. How do you understand this statement? It seems to make no sense. If you keep something, you will lose it. And if you give it away, it is yours forever. Seems to be an unreasonable statement. But if you look at it from the point of view of our scriptures, it makes sense. Take, for instance, the Mahabharata. There is a passage called Yaksha Prashna. And there you find this Yaksha, this demigod, asking King Yudhishthira the question, what goes with a person after death? When we die, is there anything that goes with us? That is the question. And the answer Yudhishthira gave is Dharma. Dharma goes with us after death. Everything else is left behind. Property, relatives, money, your own talents, your own abilities, everything is left behind. So only Dharma goes with us. We know this. We know that we'll have to leave everything behind, but Maya veils our eyes and we don't want to think about it. It is a fact, and yet we don't want to dwell on that. So Yudhishthira says, only Dharma goes with us. So from that point of view, this statement makes sense. Whatever you keep to yourself, you will lose. It may be today, it may be after 100 years, but we are bound to lose it. It is a matter of time. All we have will have to be left behind. And only Dharma will go with us. Whatever actions we do, good or bad, that will stick to us. Will stick to us. We cannot just shed the load. We have to carry that load with us. So if you help somebody, if you did something for someone, that is yours forever. You have helped them. That action is yours forever. So from that point of view, this statement makes sense. So we see how important it is, this idea of Danham, sharing with others, helping others. Now, we are going to, during this talk, we are going to try to answer 3 questions. Why should we give to others? Or why should we share with others? That is the first question. Then, what can we share with others? Normally people think of money, but it's not as simple as that. What can we share with others? And third, how? Is there a way to give? Or is it just a matter of giving and there is no particular way of doing it? So these are the 3 questions. Why, what to give, and how to give. If you ask, why should we give? There are 2 reasons why. The first one is, because we have no choice. So life is give and take. We are forced to give. And if we don't want to give, it will be taken from us. Take, for instance, taxes. You can't say, I won't pay my taxes. So you're getting something. You're getting trash collection. You are getting police protection, all these things. But you have to pay your taxes. So you're getting something and you are giving something. So why give? Because you have to. You don't have a choice. So that is one answer. Why should we give? Because this is how this world is built up. We are all interdependent. We give and take. And there is no way out. Nobody can say, no, I will not give, I will not take. It's just not possible. We all need others, and others need us. So the first answer is, why give? Because we have no choice. But there is another way. Why give? Because I want to. It is my choice. It is not expected of me. It is not my duty, and yet I want to give. So when it is our choice, it becomes a spiritual act. Not under compulsion, not under pressure, not because society expects that. It's because we want to do it. It is our own choice. Then it becomes a spiritual act. Swami Vivekananda said, why should we do good to the world? Apparently to help the world, but really to help ourselves. We can't give anything to the world. We are really moving things from one place to another. If you have $10 in your pocket, you give it to a person in the street. Those $10 just move from your pocket to their pocket. You have not created anything. You just change the place from your pocket to another pocket. When we die, the same thing happens. From our bank account to our children's bank account. So things are being shifted around. We are not really creating anything or doing anything special. We are just moving things around when we give to others. Imagine you have two bowls. One is full of water, one is empty. And you pour the water from bowl 1 to bowl 2. So now bowl 1 is empty and bowl 2 is full of water. But in that process of pouring the water from one bowl to the other, the air from bowl 2 went to bowl 1. So what I mean to say is, you cannot do something in a vacuum. When you're helping somebody, you will get something in exchange. You can't help it. Just like when you pour the water, you get the air in the bowl. You can't prevent the air from entering the bowl as you empty the water. So, if we help others, Swamiji says, we help ourselves. We will get something. Just like the bowl will get the air when it is emptied from the water. Psychologists say there is something called the helper's high. They have made studies about people who are charitable, people who help others. And they found that those who are in the habit of doing things for others, of helping others in any way, they get a feeling of well-being after doing this work. So they studied this and they found that the stress hormones go down and the health improves and there is better lifespan and better health. So this is a proven scientific fact. It's studied by the scientists. So it seems that when we do things for others, we get at least physical and psychological benefits, which can be measured. And it makes sense. Imagine a person who is very self-centered. They don't worry about others. They are always worried about themselves. So naturally, they will always be brooding about their future. What will happen? What will happen? That creates stress. Now imagine if the same person for the time being does something for somebody else. But for the time being, they stop thinking, what will happen to me? They start thinking, oh, what has happened to you? So it makes sense that the stress levels will go down when we do things for others, because we, for the time being, forget ourselves. Lincoln has a very nice saying. He said, to ease another's heartache is to forget one's own. So if you are worried about somebody else's troubles, you forget your own troubles. So this is what Swamiji says. Why help the world? Apparently to help the world, but really we help ourselves. So there is joy in receiving something. We are all familiar with that. Everybody understands that receiving a gift is nice. If somebody helps you with something, you will be happy. Everybody likes to be helped and to be taken care of. But there is another joy of giving to others, of, say, I go through some hardship to help you. Yes, I may go through a little suffering, but I don't care because somebody else will benefit. So that is another kind of joy that not everybody has learned to appreciate. Once I heard a nice story. There was a hiker hiking after a heavy flooding along a river, and she came across a gold nugget. So she picked it up and she was admiring the stone. And then another hiker came along, and he saw her and said, oh, how lucky you are. You got this wonderful gold nugget. And he said, if I had come 2 minutes earlier, I would have picked it up. And then she said, do you want it? Yes, but it's yours. You found it. Then she said, no, if you want it, you can have it. So the man was perplexed. He said, how can you give it just like that? And she explained, she said, look, if I keep it, I have the joy of owning it. And if I don't keep it, I have the joy of giving it away. So both ways I can be happy. You can be happy by keeping things to yourself, or you can find happiness in giving to others. So this answers our first question. Why should we give? It is for our own good. It will help us. We may not be able to understand how, but it's a law of the universe. When you do things for others, you benefit. So the second question is what to give. What are we supposed to give? Swami Vivekananda says, first comes the gift of food, next the gift of learning, and the highest gift is the gift of spiritual knowledge. So when he says gift of food, that means material help. Suppose somebody is hungry and you feed them. Then in the evening they're hungry again. So you help them for the time being, but then again, they're in the same predicament. Again, they're hungry. Now suppose you teach them how to grow their own vegetables and cook. Then you have solved their problem. Whenever they're hungry, they can feed themselves. So that is the gift of learning. So Swamiji says that the lowest type of gift we can give to others is material gifts, material help. And higher than that is when you are helping others be self-sufficient, when you're teaching them a skill, some way to survive, that is a higher type of help. That is why you will find in India this reverence for the teacher. Even if it is a music teacher, even if it is a teacher of something secular, in India there is great reverence. Why? In the West we would say, well, I'm paying them. Why do I need to show reverence? Huh? I'm paying them and they're teaching me. It is a transaction. But in India, paying is not enough. You show reverence to your teacher. Why? Because they acquired a certain skill. Without them, we wouldn't have access to that. It is through these gurus, even in secular matters, these teachers enable us to acquire this knowledge. So, the gift of learning is higher than the material gifts. Then comes a spiritual gift, the highest type of gift we can give. When you, a spiritual person like Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, Jesus, they can give illumination to others. And that solves not only the problem of living in this world, that solves all our problems. Even existential problems like death. Everybody is afraid of death. Well, even that problem is solved, and we will no longer be afraid of death at all. Remember that story that Swamiji used to tell, that in the old days, Alexander the Great was conquering Asia, and he came to India. And he came across a sage under a tree, and he started talking with the sage, and he was impressed by his wisdom. So he told him, please come with me to my court. I want to continue listening to your teachings. And the sage replied, no, thank you. I'm okay here. I don't want to move from here. Then Alexander said, but if you come, I'll give you land and gold and property and honors and everything you want. All you have to do is just expound your knowledge to me. Just share your wisdom with me. And the sage said, no, I don't need all this gold and property. I'm happy here. I have the clear water from the streams and fruit from the forest, and I don't need anything else. So no, I will stay here. Then Alexander said, okay, then I will chop off your head and kill you. And the sage laughed and says, that's the greatest lie you have ever told. You may chop off my head, but you can never kill me. This self is immortal. So what could Alexander do? He just gave up. So when you reach that stage that you can laugh when somebody threatens to kill you, then what problem remains? There is no more problems. So that is the highest gift, when somebody can give you that knowledge of the self. So Swamiji says, when we ask what to give, that these are the three things. First, material help. Then the gift of learning. And then a spiritual gift. Swamiji continues. In the world, always take the position of the giver. Give everything and look for no return. Give love, give help, give service, give any little thing you can. Let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. So let's look at this teaching of Swamiji. Always take the position of the giver. You will notice in this world there are two types of people, roughly speaking. Givers and takers. So the givers are always looking for opportunities to help others, to get involved, to make a difference. And the takers, they are always looking for an opportunity to take advantage and benefit from others. So these are two extremes, and all of us fall somewhere in between. Sometimes we are givers, sometimes we are takers. But Swamiji says, always take the position of the giver. In other words, give as much as you can, take as little as possible. That will be the position of the giver. And then, what to give? It is interesting what he enumerates here, because this was our question, what to give. So Swamiji says, give love. That is the first thing that he mentions. So love, normally we don't mention about like something you can give. Somebody's raising funds for something and you say, I want to give love. They will not, they will not be impressed by that. We want your money. But Swamiji says, give love. That's the first thing he says. Then he says, give help, give service. And then he says, give any little thing you can, like material things come last. The first thing you need is love, to give love to others. From love will come help. From love will come service, from this attitude of love. Then he says, let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. Whatever we have, we will be blessed with, whatever it is, a loving family. It comes from God. We really cannot take credit for anything we have. So Swamiji says, whatever we have, we got it from God. And share it with others. And as we share, God will keep giving to us. So if you give love to others, then the Divine Mother, who is in our own hearts and also running the show of the universe, she will notice that and she will say, oh, he is running out of love, let me give more. Then he will distribute more. So the more you give, the more God will give to you. So Swamiji says, let us give out of our own bounty, just as God gives to us. Without God's love, we cannot love others. It is God that is giving us whatever we have. If you love others, it is God's grace that has given you that love. So this answers the question, what to give. We see that money and material things are not the most important thing. They are overrated. Yes, they are important. But without love, they don't really matter. Love comes first. And all other things are an expression of that love. You are showing that love by giving material things. So the next question is, how to give? Swamiji has some interesting statements about this. He says, let the giver kneel down and give thanks. Let the receiver stand up and permit. Try to picture this image in your mind. The giver stands up and permits, and the receiver stands up and permits, and the giver kneels down and gives thanks. I am getting confused because it's just not what we are used to. Our usual picture of what someone giving is like and someone receiving. How can the receiver stand up and permit and the giver give thanks and kneel down? That is what Swamiji says. How to explain it? Swamiji himself will explain this. He says, if you do good at all, you do it to yourself. And it's interesting that he says, if you do good at all. Because sometimes we mean to do good, but we end up messing up. Sometimes we have the best intention and we think we are helping somebody, but we are not. There's a nice story in the life of Swami Yatishwaranandaji. He was a young student, and he used to do some research in a lab. And once he was walking along the road and he found a dog with bad wounds. It was suffering. So he took pity on the dog and went to the lab and found some antiseptic, some medicine, and applied it to the wounds of the dog. And, he thought that will take care of it. Then he went to do some errand. After some hours, he came back, and he found the dog lying in the street dead. So how come? I was trying to help this dog, and it is dead. Then somebody explained to the Swami that the medicine you apply is for external use, and he would have taken care of it, but the dog licked it, and it's poisonous. So the dog died. So the Swami tells this story to show that karma is not that straightforward. Sometimes we want to help, and we think we are helping, and we are not. It's just the opposite. Why? Because we are ignorant. So we are trying our best to do good to others, but it's not a perfect thing because we ourselves don't know exactly how things are. So Swamiji, knowing this very well, he makes this statement that if you do good at all, you do it to yourself. Swamiji continues. Feel that the receiver is the higher one. You serve the other because you are lower than them, not because they are low and you are high. According to the scriptures, the giver is lower than the receiver. So we are getting all these contradictory statements. Huh? The giver is lower than the receiver. How to explain this? It seems to make no sense. Swamiji himself will answer. He says, why is the giver lower than the receiver? It is because, for the time being, the receiver is God himself. You are encountering God in whoever needs help, whoever needs your service, your help. God has come to you for the time being to receive your service. So would you put yourself higher than God? No. But we tend to forget, and if we are busy walking in the street and we drop a few coins, that we can't see God there. We forget. But Swamiji says, according to the scriptures, the giver is lower than the receiver. Why? Because it is God that appears before us to give us that opportunity. To make this more understandable, you know, now Durga Puja is coming. Now I don't know how you arrange things here in DC, but in St. Louis, different devotees will cook something at home. So maybe 4 or 5 people will say, okay, I'll make rice. Another person says, I'll make dal, and etc. And that way we feed our congregation. So when a person is cooking for the special puja, for the temple, they will be very careful. They will take a bath, they will change the clothes. When they are cooking, they are thinking of God. And then they come, they bring it to the society, and they say, Swamiji, I hope it's enough. Swamiji, I hope it's not too salty. Swamiji, I hope everything is fine. So much humility, so much diffidence. Why? Because it is for God. So can we have that same attitude whenever we are doing something for others, not just for the temple? You see, when you do something for the temple, it is spontaneous. Spontaneously you feel, oh, I should be extra careful. It is for God. Swamiji says, it is God appearing all the time, not only in the temple. Whenever you get a chance, you are meeting God. Can you have that same humility? Can you have that same attitude? That is what Swamiji means. So in the scriptures you will find passages that tell us about this question, how to give. One passage is from the Taittiriya Upanishad, from the end of the first chapter. You will find the teacher saying goodbye to the students who are going back home after finishing their studies, and he gives them some advice regarding this Danham Charity. So the teacher says, Shraddhaya deyam, ashraddhaya deyam, shraddhaya deyam. Give with Shraddha. Shraddha has many meanings: faith, love, conviction. So give with this conviction, Give with this love, with respect. It's not that you have to give something very expensive or you have to do some spectacular service. No. Whatever little thing you do, do it with love. In the Gita, when Sri Krishna speaks about offerings, he is not telling, give me all you have. He is saying, patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam. Give me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, a glass of water. Now, even a beggar can afford these things. Everybody can afford these things. Get one leaf, get one flower, get one piece of fruit, get a glass of water. Even a beggar can do that. So Sri Krishna says, offer me this. You don't need anything special. You don't need gold and diamonds, but do it with love. That is what God requires. So here also, the teacher says, Shataya deyam, give with that attitude of love, with that reverence. Sri Ramakrishna tells a beautiful story about this. He says that there was a landlord who had vast property, and he is moving from one estate to another just to check how things are going. So once he visits one of his orchards and is just relaxing in the living room of the house, and he notices a gardener entering the house and just standing there with something in his hand. So the landlord says, hey, hello, what do you have there? And the gardener, with great hesitation, he comes to him and says, sir, I saved this for you. And it is a mango. He gives him a mango. So the landlord takes the mango and admires it and says, oh, this is a wonderful mango. You saved it for me? Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. This is really nice. I will have it tonight for dinner. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So Sri Ramakrishna tells this story. Now, the whole orchard belongs to the landlord. Every mango tree and every mango. And he has lots of similar gardeners. He doesn't know their names. He doesn't know who they are. He's a very rich man. But this gardener saved his own mango and gave it to him. And the landlord is so happy, receiving his own mango. Why? What is so special about it? The love. He thought of him, he saved it and gave it to him with love. So Sri Ramakrishna gives this example, that we cannot give anything to God. What can we give to God? What God wants is our love. So whenever we are offering something, it's just, you can say, symbolic. It is symbolic. Like in Bengali they say, Ganga Jole, Ganga Puja. Some days they worship Mother Ganga, and they use Ganga water to worship Mother Ganga. So in the same way, we are trying to offer things to God, but God doesn't need anything. So it's only our love that matters. So this love is the most important thing. Then the teacher says just the opposite. Ashraddhaya adayam. If it is without love, better not give. Some people give, but under compulsion or for some ulterior motive without love. The teacher says, no. If you don't have love in your heart, better don't give. One example you will find in Holy Mother's life. She had a devotee called Amjad, who was a criminal, and people stay away from him. But he had sincere devotion to Holy Mother. So once he was at Mother's house and he was being fed, and Holy Mother noticed that her niece was feeding him, throwing the food from a distance onto the plate. So Holy Mother noticed this and said, what is this? How can somebody enjoy their meal being served like that? Like just food is being thrown at you. So Holy Mother says, leave it to me, go, I'll do it. So if you're going to serve without love, don't serve. That is the idea. Then he says, Shriya Deyam, give according to your means. You don't need to do anything spectacular. You don't need to get into debt to be charitable. Once Jesus was in front of the temple, looking at people bringing their offerings to the temple, and they were bringing lots of ornaments and gold, etc. And then he noticed an old widow who just offered 2 small copper coins. And Jesus said to his disciples, this widow has given more than everybody else. She has given according to her means with love. So, Shriya Deyam, give according to your means. How much you give, it doesn't matter. What you give, it doesn't matter. The love is what matters. Then, Hriya Deyam, give with humility. We already talked about that. Just like when you offer something in the temple, we are very humble. We should have that same humility whenever we do things for others. Bhiya Deyam, give with fear. Now this is puzzling. Why should I be afraid when I give? Fear doesn't seem to come into the picture. Why should I be afraid when I'm giving service, for instance? Well, I think there is room for fear. Like, for instance, we should pray, oh Lord, don't make me egotistic. We should be afraid of our own ego. Let me not think of myself better than others. Let me not have the wrong attitude. So we can be afraid of all these things. I'm afraid that I may have the wrong attitude. Please, Lord, protect me from that. So there's nothing wrong with being afraid of our own ego. Then, samvida deyam, give with understanding, with agreement. What does it mean? Sometimes you will find people want to give something because they want to get rid of it. So it may be something valuable, not even a piece of junk, it may be something valuable, but they have no more use for it. Sometimes they come to the Vedanta Society and say, Swamiji, this is for the society. We don't need this. We don't have space. We don't have space. There's nothing wrong with it is something good, it's not a piece of junk, but samvida deyam, let there be agreement. Do you need it? Will it be helpful? Can I imagine it in the Vedanta Society? Would it be of any use? Otherwise, yes, I want to get rid of it, but I'm not thinking of the other party. So when I was in India, there was one devotee who used to bring a garland for Sri Ramakrishna every day, many years. So one fine day, another devotee came with a garland and said to the Swami, this is for Sri Ramakrishna. Now, is this devotee who has been bringing the garland all along, and somebody got up one day and said, I'll bring a mala. Now, if you put too many malas, you hide Sri Ramakrishna. So we don't want that. So the Swami, I could see he was hesitating. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. At the same time, you want people to be able to see Sri Ramakrishna. So then he said, okay, today we will put 2 malas, but please don't bring any more. You see, that sometimes we want to do something. We have this urge that, oh, this is wonderful, I will do this. But it may not be the right thing. It may not be useful to others. So this is an important point. Whenever we have this inspiration to do something or to help others or to give something, is it really needed? Is it really useful? This is the point. Samvida deyam. In the Gita also you will find Sri Krishna speaks of 3 types of charity: sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So some type of charity is harmful even. Tamasic is, it's actually you can do harm by being charitable. So Sri Krishna says about the sattvic type of giving, that which is given just for the sake of giving to one who cannot return the favor in the right place, at the right time, to a deserving person, that gift is considered sattvic, spiritual. So the word he uses is Danham, charity. That is an old tradition in India, you will find. Even in Sri Ramakrishna's life, you find his father, he traveled on foot from Bengal to Rameshwaram. It took him 1 year. How could he do it without money? Danham. So whenever he entered the village, people will come and give him food, give him shelter, medicine, whatever they need. You will also find in Sri Ramakrishna's life that during his time there was a rest house in Kamarpukur. And the pilgrims on the way to Puri would stop there and they would enter the village and they would collect alms. And they are not begging. They will just walk and say, Om Namo Narayanaya, salutations to the Lord. They are not begging. People will come and give because they know this idea of Danham, how important it is. So, there's a book called Towards the Goal Supreme, Paramartha Prasanga, by Swami Virajananda. So there he deals with this idea of Danham. He has a little passage about this. And he explains the psychology of Danham in India. He says that the devotees, they serve the spiritual seekers. The spiritual seekers like monks and others, nuns, who devote their lives to search for God. Other devotees, the lay people, they support them. Why? Well, the idea is, this person is struggling to realize God. If I help them in any way, I'll get a share, a small part of the result of their efforts. And Swami Virajananda says, yes, that is true. When you help a spiritual person live a spiritual life, you will benefit. You will get part of their blessings. But he says another part is true, that these spiritual seekers who are getting help from others, they should really be sincere. They should really struggle to realize God. Otherwise, they will be ruined because you are not working, you are just living from the help of others. If you are not doing what you are supposed to do, then you will come to grief. So you can see the wisdom of that there is a twofold purpose here. People will be generous to those who want to live a spiritual life. And the spiritual seekers, the monks and the nuns, they will be careful that I should not take more than I need because I will be losing my spiritual capital. And I should be sincere in my search. Otherwise, I'm just living from the help of others. I am cheating them. So it helps people be generous and the monastics to be sincere. So Sri Krishna says, the first thing he says, Datavyam. That which is given because it should be given. It will come from within us, that you will feel like this is the right thing to do. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Nobody needs to tell you about it. You feel that you have to give, that you have to help, that you have to get involved. There's a Catholic saint from modern times who was a Polish Catholic priest. So during the Second World War, he was sheltering Jews and other dissidents from the Nazi regime, and he was caught. And when they found out what he was doing, he was sent to Auschwitz. So he was there with all the other prisoners, and then there was some prisoners escaped from the camp, and the Nazis were really mad, and they said, we'll teach them a lesson. So they announced that 10 people will be starved to death to prevent further escapes. So they started calling 10 names at random, and these people will be put in a dungeon, and they stop feeding them until they die. That was the deterrent, so that people don't try to escape. So they called out 10 names. In one guy, when his name was read out, he shouted, "Oh, my wife, my children, I'll never see them again." It came, spontaneously. So this priest, he heard this. And then he went to the guards and said, I'm a priest. This man has family. Let me take his place. And the guards, the Germans are a little bit strange. And they say, okay, you can take his place. And so they switched. And this priest died. And the other man was saved. But that man, he lived for another 50 plus years until his 90s. He survived Auschwitz, and he could never forget the person who gave up his life for him. So for the rest of his life, whenever he got a chance, he would tell the story of the priest who gave his life for him. And why did he do that? Why did he give up his life? He felt that he had to do it. This is what Sri Krishna says, Datavyam. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. He felt that I'm a priest. He's a family person. He has wife and kids. Let me go. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. So, anupakarine, to one who cannot give you in return. That's another sign of a spiritual giving. You give to somebody who cannot give you back. Otherwise, it is a transaction. They say that, they have proved that when the kids are approaching the age to apply for college, the parents start donating to their old school. Why? You can imagine. You can draw your own conclusion. And they say that after admission, the donations go down, and if they are not admitted, they stop completely. So they are giving, but they are expecting in return. So Sri Krishna says, anupakarine, to one who cannot give you in return. That is spiritual. Otherwise, it is a transaction. Then he says, deshe kale chapatrecha. According to the place, according to the time, and to the recipient. If you take all these things into consideration, giving because it's the right thing to do, giving without expecting anything in return, taking into account the place, the time, and the person, if everything, all these things are right, then it is sattvic. It is a spiritual type of charity. Then he deals with rajasic, that which is given with reluctance, with the hope of a return, or in expectation of a reward, is said to be rajasic, worldly. What could be an example of reluctant giving? For instance, when they try to create peer pressure, or we are going to raise funds, and then how much are you giving? How much are you giving? So you are put on the spot. Everybody's giving so much, and how can you give a little? So you may not want to give, but that peer pressure, so you reluctantly say, okay, I'll give this much. So some ministers are very clever about this, how to create this. Even another example, when you are at the checkout at the stores, they will ask you, would you like to donate something? Now just think about it. Somebody thought about this. Like, okay, when people are shopping, they have the cart full of stuff they bought for themselves, They have taken out the money to pay. There is people behind them listening and watching. Let us ask them if they want to give money. So it is a horrible thing that you're put on the spot. So many people sincerely want to give. That is a different thing. They sincerely want to give at that time and place. But many people, they don't. But they look behind, and these people are waiting to see what I'm going to say. Huh? And I have bought so many things for myself. So how can I say no to a couple of bucks? But really, I wouldn't have done it. I do it reluctantly because I am put on the spot. So when that is the case, it is worldly. We do it under pressure. We really are reluctant. We wouldn't do it, but we do it. So there is nothing spiritual about that. And then, with the hope of a return. So you are giving something, but you are expecting a return. Say, for instance, politicians. Now, politicians are not the most admired type of profession in the world. People complain about the politicians being slimy and so many things. And yet, they are giving them gifts right and left. They get lots of gifts and freebies and whatnot. But nobody loves them. How come? It's just a transaction. You give them gifts and they will give you permission for this, permission for that, give you this, concession, whatever. So there is nothing spiritual about giving to them in that case. It's just you're expecting something in return. There's a funny story also about this. You see, we want to get a benefit. When we give in a worldly sense, we always want to get something in return. So there was a seller of puffed rice. Bengalis, probably many of you know the story. A man was selling puffed rice in the street. And as he was pouring the rice on a paper cone, a gust of wind blew it away. So this puffed rice is floating in the air for a few seconds. And the seller shouted, "Uro koi govindaya namaha." That means, I offered this flying rice to Govinda. It's going to fall and it's going to be wasted. So while it is floating, it's still clean. I offer it to Govinda. Let me get something out of it. So that is a funny Bengali story. Uro koi govindaya namaha. So nothing should go to waste. I am not getting money from it. Let me get some punya, at least. So that's the idea. There's another story similar. Some people were crossing the Ganges in a boat, and then there was a terrible storm, and it was about to capsize. And there was a drunk in the crowd, and he started shouting and announcing, "Oh, Mother Ganga, if you stop the storm and save us, I will worship you with a gold coin." And he went on saying this, "I will worship you with a gold coin." So eventually the storm subsided and the boat did not capsize. They got to the other shore. And then the drunk announced, "Now I'm going to worship Mother Ganga with a gold coin." So he got into the river and he flipped the gold coin and he said, "Here, Mother, I am worshiping you with a gold coin." And then he put his hand under the river, the other hand, and said, "Thank you for the prasad." So this is cleverness. Huh? So some people are like that. They want to give, but then they want the prasad also. So that is, Sri Krishna says, rajasic. It's not a spiritual kind of charity. And the last one is, that which is given at an improper place and time to an unworthy person with disrespect or contempt, that gift is said to be tamasic, to be harmful. So sometimes people will give, suppose, just to show they are superior to others. I want to show that I am wealthier or whatever, so I'll give something. The intention is completely wrong. Not to help, not to make them feel good. The other person should feel bad, actually. So that is tamasic. You are actually, sometimes you're insulting somebody by giving them something. So we spoke a little about giving as a sadhana. And first, why give? And we saw that it is to help ourselves, not to help others, really. And then what to give? We saw that the most important thing is love. And everything else follows that. If you have love, you will serve, you will help, and you will give material help also. And then we saw how to give. That there are many ways that we can give in the wrong way. We have to be humble. We have to. We mentioned all the things that will make giving successful. So then, one last point we can mention before we finish is, Swamiji said, always take the position of the giver, as opposed to the taker. But there is another thing, we have to receive. So there is a difference between being a taker and receiving. You see, we all give and take, but really, we need to be able to receive gracefully. So when Patanjali speaks of aparigraha, he means don't take. Pari means from all sides. Graha means to grasp. You are trying to grab from all sides. That means you are looking for opportunity all the time to take advantage. Don't do that. That is aparigraha. But receiving is fine. We have to receive. We have no choice. We depend on others. So the idea is, be a giver and also be a grateful and gracious receiver when you need help from others, that all of us are bound to need help from others. All of us. We need the help of others. That will make us humble. That we are just human beings after all. We depend on God. We depend on the help of others. So that's the final point, that not being a taker doesn't mean that we don't receive. You are not a taker. You are not looking for opportunities or to take advantage, but you receive gratefully when it is proper to do so. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.